Okay. Hot. Good morning. All right, just like I did with the last session. Try to get it. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. Feel the energy. Feel the love. Or am I feeling last night? Which one? So we're really excited to be here. My name is Maurice, Ferrell. I work at the School of Government, as most of you know. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the Chief Information Officer becoming a transformational leader. It's a really interesting area of study, I think. Transformational leadership is one of these new, well, it's not really new, but it's a buzzword when it comes to leadership. Everyone wants to be a transformational leader. And why is that? Why does everyone want to be a transformational leader? Okay, this is where you raise your hand and I call on you. Yes. 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 Absolutely. And the transformational leader kind of exudes a visionary, it kind of exudes someone who's on the cutting edge. And I think a lot of our IT departments want to be that group that's on the leading, I won't say bleeding edge, but leading edge. They're leading the organization. They're coming up with creative ideas and that sort of thing. So we thought this would be a very cool topic to talk about. And as we go through this topic, we're going to kind of look at the evolution, where we started, kind of where we are now, and this will be a Mauriceism, where I think we're going to go. And so we'll hopefully this is designed to be interactive and a lot of conversation, so hopefully you guys will want to chime in. So as we start to look at this, the evolution of, and we'll start with the evolution of technology. Many of you can remember the mainframe era. Yes, no. I actually had a chance to go to dinner last night, and I don't know if Neil's in here or not, but they were talking about carrying the punch cards across campus and running them through the system to get a program going. And I used to be in the military service, and we had these rooms as large as this whole salon full of computers on raised floors with all these thick cables going underneath the bottom. And we had these ugly green terminals at people's desks, and that's how we did computing. That was the mainframe. So then we got a little smarter, right? We went to the distributed era where we went to client server. We had servers and computers. The rooms got a little smaller. They were still cold. They were still, below freezing. And we created a networked environment. We were really starting to add some business value. And then all of a sudden in the 90s, the internet happened. And now we are all connected all the time. So with the evolution of technology, there's been this process of where, well, let me get to this. So the mainframe era happened in the 1960s, right? And if you remember, you see the punch card, when you remember that. How many of you have a computer like this at your home? Used to. So the floppy disk, I had an opportunity to show my kids the floppy disk, and they were like, where do you put that in? What is that? So that was the mainframe era. And then we, also too, this was a very technical era for us, right? Because this was where we were really putting something in, getting something out, putting something in, getting something out. It was very technical. It was not necessarily a business focused arena. We were trying to reduce time, but it was very business, it was very technical. It wasn't really I consider a business focus. And then as we got into this distributed era, which was in the 1970s, we started going to these client server configurations, and we started looking at now business automation and some value. Okay, this is where we start to try to see how we can get value out of our systems. And then we get to the web era. You guys like my dolphins? I thought they were really cool. But we started getting into the web era, and this was in the 1990s, and then this got to all be about accessing information. It got to be about this, all the time being connected. We started now getting into more of a global perspective. No longer were we just in our little county. It was all about this whole global thing. And now with the web era, it becomes more a strategic value for technology. So as technology has moved across these eras, so has leadership, right? So as we start to look at the leadership in these different eras, you can just look at the titles and see where we have come from. Sometimes it's good, as we think about this back to the future, we have to look back where we were to where we are going to go. So if you look at, in the mainframe era, we were data processing, information systems managers. Anybody remember what that really was? You were the god or goddess of the punch cards, right? All you did was run something. I guess it would be more like a computer operator today. You just ran the process. You didn't really add any value to the business. It was more of a utility at that point, okay? So then we get into the distributed era, and now we start to become more of a manager, IT director, okay? We have managed these systems. We're starting to look at how we can improve business efficiency and that sort of thing. And then when the web era comes into place, this is where we become a chief information officer. And why is that important? Because as we talked about the web era, that is the area where we start talking about information and access to information. So this is where the chief information officer really starts to come to the forefront. I think it was back in 2002 or year 2000 is when the chief information officer actually came to be a full-fledged official office. So I want to spend a little time on this really busy chart right here. And some of you that have been in CIO school probably have seen this chart before. And if you haven't, I'm sorry. But I want to go through this a little bit. Because as the role of the CIO has evolved, it has gone into these couple of different categories. Okay, and this is kind of like where we are right now. So as you look at this chart, you see across the top there's, bless you, there's a run, a grow, and a transform, okay? And then underneath each one of these different titles, there's function, and then under grow, there's enable and contribute, then under transform, there's differentiate and transform. The interesting thing about this chart is that you cannot get to transform unless you go through run and grow. Everybody with me? So you cannot just go into an organization and say, I am a transformational CIO, and the internet crashes. Okay? You have to do these things in a sequential state. So in the run function, what management says to us in the run function is that we must keep our business running efficiently and effectively, okay? And where the CIO, as we're moving across this continuum, we're really focused on performance and assets. This is where we really start to look at, are we meeting the needs? Do we have the right people on board? Do we have the right technologies in place? And really, IT is a utility at that point. So if you think about the mainframe era, that's kind of where we are in this continuum, okay? Our measures are uptime, and if you've been through our class, we hate those measures, right? Who cares well, you do care if your internet has been up 100% of the time, but who cares about it when you're trying to get money? You have to, and we'll get to that as we go through this continuum. But the key thing here in this particular state is that you're measuring uptime, you're measuring budget, making sure that you have enough people, and you're really focused on cost and efficiency under the run category. So after you have done that well, you've got the appropriate people, you've got some budget, I won't say adequate, you have some budget, you're able to kind of meet the needs and the utility pieces working, then you go into this growth stage, right, when you become an enabler and a contributor. So the business leaders, they look at you now and says, how can technology help us to meet our objectives? And so then your focus now becomes more business support, okay? You become more of a responder. You're measuring response time, and you're starting to look at portfolios, and then you're also trying to really meet expectations. which is a little different than the first one. The first one was you're really focused on cost and efficiency. Now you're really focusing on meeting a business expectation. You do that well, you move over into this contribute area. And this is where things start to get interesting, because now the management holds IT accountable, okay? They're not looking for your help. They're holding you accountable for raising business value. So now you start to focus more on business performance. IT becomes a problem solver. The measure now is around business performance. The emphasis is on how we're going to run and grow our portfolio. And then the focus now becomes on business results, which is kind of different, right? So we're kind of moving outside of the IT department. We're looking at how are we improving business results. So then we get into this whole transformation stage. This is where we want to be, right? This is like the holy grail for CIOs. This is where we feel like we have arrived. We say, yes, this is where we want to be. So this is where we start to have impact within the organization. So management now starts to look at us. They start to depend on information technology. They start to develop competitive strategies around the technology and the strategies. So the CIO now is looking at scale, reach, and time to delivery. They become more interested in new services, and their emphasis is around growth and transformation. And they begin to build partnerships. They become more political. They start looking more outside of the organization. And then in the last section is where IT now becomes a change agent. They change the game. It's a game changer. The IT focuses around being a visionary. The measures around new services and programs. And the focus, I love this, is that they get to break the rules, because they have built this trust with their organization. So as you look at this chart today, where do you feel that your organization falls? Are you in the run stage? Are you in the growth stage? And who is in the transformation stage?
I feel like I'm probably in between the growth and transform. I'm making that progressions.
Okay.
I feel like.
Okay. That's good.
Which is probably on the emphasis side of transform.
That's good.
I think it's a one-man shop. I'm all over this scale. Depending on what, I'll be pulling wire through the ceiling one minute and deciding on a $400,000 software package the next minute.
And you hit a very key point, and I want to make sure that you understand that as a CIO in an IT organization, you're going to move up and down this continuum all the time. As new projects come in, as new things come in, you're going to continually bounce around this. And at smaller shops, you have no choice. I mean, you are the utility, right? But then at the same time, you have to be the change agent, the one that's breaking the rules. Yes, sir. Back at run? Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's okay to be at run, right? It's okay, because that is the building block to get to transformation. And I think that's the sometimes with leadership, and we hear all these different terms: transformational leader, authentic leader, servant leadership. We get so caught up in that theory that we forget the path that it takes to get to those different kinds of leaders. So starting at run, or starting at the beginning, that's the foundational aspect of getting to a transformational leader. I guess so.
I think it's also important that you understand the culture. You may be ready to move from body to transform. You got to make sure that, one, you bring your team along, absolutely, and two, the people that you are serving of the departments are ready to.
Absolutely. Now most real technical folks like to be in run. right? That's where their strengths are. You know, that's how they measure. You know, if you talk to real technical folks, you know, they really get into, I've had the system up 100% of the time. You know, IT is the utility. For them, it is. So as a transformational CIO or just a leader in general, you have to help them connect the dots to what they're doing as having a business value. So explaining to them, how does my fixing of this computer help the overall business goal? We kind of got into a discussion at CIO school, and I won't really go all the way back into it, but really we were talking about help desk work order requests. And we were talking about how we were looking at that, and wouldn't it be cool if our help desk requests matched the business focus? So that when we were talking about the number of tickets we closed, it was not just a number, but it had a business value to it. So I'm working on the administrative assistant's computer who has the budget on it, and we help improve business efficiency with the budget versus just fixing a machine or a printer. So those things are important as you start to look at trying to plug in here real quick. Yes, thank you. It's really cool when you're at an IT conference and the technology starts wigging out on you, right? Then all the pressure's on you, like, oh, he's talking about CIOs and Transformational Leader. Can he plug the power supply into his laptop? That's the real test. And that's what I'll get evaluated on. You know, he was really good, but he didn't know how to plug that power supply into his laptop.
He doesn't practice what he preaches.
Right, so how can I be transformational? I can't handle the utility, right? That was a perfect example. I couldn't have thought of that any better than that. But I'm still in run mode right now, yes. So I have my power now, maybe I can go into enable and grow. But if you start to think about how we measure things and how we make sure that our staff really understands that what they're doing has overall business goals, really is important. So they can get out of the run mode. Because as Dwayne pointed out, you're not going to be able to outrun your staff. So if your staff is still in run mode, you really can't get to transformational unless you have a really complex structure to help you do that. Any others? Anyone else want to share where they think they are along this continuum?
I'll be honest, I'm
Grow? For me, this was like really helpful to kind of like really help me if I was still managing. It would really help me to really see where we are as an organization and where we possibly could go. There are new trends and technologies coming every day. And one of the most important things that you have to look at is, am I ready to really embrace a new technology? For example, we just discussed BYOD. Is my IT department ready to handle BYOD? Because with BYOD comes a lot of assumptions, right? I'm empowering the employee, which means that I cannot have my IT person telling the user we're not going to work on your machine, and that's stupid that you bought that. Because they do that, right? And, you know, they don't do that, right? They do that. So as we start to look at these new things, you know, we want to have app stores and all these. Are we ready to really move into that arena? So this kind of helps you to think about, you know, are we truly ready, and then start to ramp up and prepare staff. It's more than just the technical pieces. It's really this whole soft side of IT. Yes. That's okay.
I do think that we're at, depending on which group we're working in, we're at different places.
Yes.
In that range. And I think that we try to be at the contribute level all the time.
Yes.
But when we get a chance, we really want to do that, differentiate, transform.
Absolutely.
And those are opportunities that present themselves, in our case, more than we want it to be ongoing in everything that we do, but
Yes, you do.
It's just, you have to be at that contribute level to be able to jump on those when they
Yes.
present themselves as opportunities.
And you kind of got to be at that contribute level almost all the time, right? So you can just jump right into this whole transform and differentiate stage. And I think that's really, really, really important. And also too, as we talk about our IT departments, organizationally, where's our organization going? What is the perception of our organization? I won't make you answer that question. I can talk about the School of Government. So it's really interesting when we have, I know the K-12 group comes into, and we have a class with them. And when they come, they're used to having smart boards and all these different technologies in the classroom. And when they come to the School of Government, we have to go and pull the screen down. And it's like, wow, you don't have a smart board? You don't have that kind of technology in the room, but yet you're going to tell me about being a transformational CIO? So what perceptions do people have of our organizations as citizens who now expect to be connected all the time? They want to be able to, engage virtually with you in local government and even in K-12. Yes, Paul.
It's so different because you're dealing with that elderly population, and when you're dealing with the kids, you should have everything on a handheld device. You can do whatever you need to do with government. So it's all across the board.
Yes.
And they're always fighting each other. And typically, elderly show up before people and fuss about it's going to do technology.
And I agree with you. True story. Last night, I was gonna attempt to Skype with my kids at home, and before I could do that, my son texted me. He grabs my wife's phone. He texted me and said, "Dad, love you. Hope everything's going well. No need to Skype because I've already talked to you." He didn't even want to have a Skype conversation with me. He just wanted to text me, tell me. Yeah, I did. I got the virtual hand. He just wanted to text me. He just wanted to text me and let me know that he was fine. Everybody was fine at the house. No need for me to call. No need to waste that time, because I'm ready to do something else, on the iPad or whatever the case was going to be. So I immediately pick up the phone and I called. I said, well, what kind of stuff is that? Oh, I told you, Dad, everything's good, We have no need to talk on the phone. That's it. So it's interesting to me that dynamic is coming up, right? And they're coming into our workplaces. They're our customers now. And so I understand that we have to do run, but we have to quickly ramp up so we can get across, so we can really embrace, I guess the word I'm looking for, embrace this new technology or this new mindset. The command and control aspect of IT is, I won't say it's going away, but it's changing. It is changing to be more of empowerment. And and we'll get into this as a transformation. That is one of the key undergirdings of a transformational leader is empowerment. And we'll get into that a little bit later here. But how many of you feel comfortable empowering your users?
It's on the user.
Okay, so maybe
Depends on the user.
depends on the user. Depends on the user.
I don't think they have a choice. I would love a system where we can empower them based on a metric of competency. Kind of like a technical IQ test. Whatever your IQ level is, technically, that's the empowerment you get.
Yeah.
But it can really mess you up.
Especially if you get one who's wanting to be an IT guy.
Yeah.
The problem is they're empowering themselves now with all these devices.
That was the spirit, yeah. So it's happening. It's happening. There are, so it's interesting. So many of us have been in places where there have been rules set aside for us. And how many of us have broke the rules? Right?
Every day.
So what do you think happens with our customers that we put these rules in place for? They look for the opportunity to break the rule, right? So I was the only one, I guess, in the room that looked for the opportunity to break the rule? No. K-12 is very interesting. So I had a chance to work in Danville Public Schools, and we always would try to secure the network to keep the students from getting into different things. Never worked. Never worked. I had an opportunity to then go over to another organization, and we had another, and I was like, getting right back into K-12. So we had more students to come in. But in this organization, the culture was no security because it was like a higher ed place. So it was no security. And I will tell you, I had no problems at this place because there was nothing for them to really break. You know, there was no rules in place. We just had a conversation. And if we could see if you went somewhere. We can't stop you. We could see it. And if we did, we want to, remove your access. We didn't have any problems whatsoever. Which I found very interesting, right? So the place that we like, all these rules, we had deep freeze on the machine, so when it rebooted itself, it would go back to this, okay, I preach to the choir over here. And we still had issues. And then we had this other place where we didn't have any of that stuff on, and they respected that we would treat them like adults. We empowered them. Now, I'm not saying that, you need to go back and just turn everything loose to the users, but, we really need to think about how can we empower our users, because they're going to do it. So how can you have these conversations to where they feel like they're part of the process?
Well, it's the only way really to build trust, right?
Building trust.
I mean, if you put so many restrictions on them, they just want to go around you.
You want to do something really bad to one of your users is not allow them to change their desktop. Right? They have the picture of the dog or the kids or whatever the case is, and you wipe that off. You get more calls about that than you will if they couldn't get connected to Outlook or something like that. You've taken away their personal space there, because that is theirs, right? That time that they're in the office, that is their workspace, and we've altered it. So, just some food for thought here. Yes?
The whole point of empowerment, though, that we restrict things based on cold and hard experience. Students shut down computer labs because they install stuff that breaks things. And then the next class is pretty much a wash because you have to spend that whole time fixing what they screwed up.
Yes.
Whereas deep freeze puts it back, fixes it all instantly. One instance we had, a student was in the open lab, and he came down to tell us just how bad we were as IT, and how virus-ridden our machines were. He had downloaded a package from the internet, installed it on the machine in the open lab, and it found all kinds of viruses. But what he was doing was he was finding the active virus patterns that our installed virus checker had keyed up to test against. So his virus checker found ours, but he thought he had done a better job at IT than we did.
Oh, yeah.
So, how do you balance that kind of empowerment? The person who thinks they're more competent than you are at your job. How do you limit those guys?
Yes. And that's a great strategy. I would say a lot of schools or folks that have hacked into the network, they hire the person. They really do. But the other thing is that is not going to go away. The consumerization of IT now has empowered users. They can go buy iPads. They have the Geek Squad in Best Buy. They have their grandkids, and they know more about that device than you do. And the sad part about it is, so we're not embracing it. So we look like we're anti-new technology. And so the perception is now that you don't know, and so they challenge everything that you do now. Everything. Even in class, when we teach, there's Google out there, right? You guys will say yes. And if I say something, you can go on Google and verify if I'm teaching something correctly, right? Yes. So I mean, it is there. It is already there. So I guess if I was really wanting to not empower the class, I could say, everybody shut their devices down. And y'all would look at me like I was crazy if I said that. But no, we embrace that. So yeah, go online and check me out. Make sure I am doing what I'm supposed to do. That's the society that we live in today. This is what the web era is. This is why this whole CIO as a transformational leader is really coming to be at the forefront of what we do in our organizations, because people have access to information very quickly. Very quickly. They can get and find things very quickly. And sometimes is it right, or is it in the right context? Maybe not. But the thing that, the opportunity that they have that information quickly, they didn't have that before. You know, we had the punch cards. If you lost the punch cards or they got out of sequence, you really couldn't get anything out of it. But now they can, because we're always connected. So as we start to really look at this transformational leadership, one of the things that transformational leadership involves is an exceptional form of influence that moves followers to accomplish more than what is usually expected of them. So, oh, what happened? Okay, I don't know what's going on with my laptop. It did that in class. Once again, this is what happens when it did. I guess I'm really in the run stage here. I'm sorry about that.
It's that back.
Let's go to the beach, yeah.
I have a Mac.
So while we're waiting for it to come back up, I can talk a little bit about
I
that
have a
with you.
Mac.
That was in Puerto Rico. That was during Christmas time, and those were my 3 lovely kids who didn't know we were taking pictures of them. They were, I guess, daydreaming about, I don't know, something. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really wanted to go there. We should have the conference there. I think that would be,
I'm there.
I think that would
Should
be
have it
great.
on a cruise. It's not much more.
Hopefully my machine comes back up.
Pretty awesome. Who do I tell that
Okay, that's cool.
to? I think she'd be down with it.
Okay, all right, we'll try it again. All right, so transformational leadership is something that really incorporates charisma, and it also incorporates visionary. So most transformational leaders have this ability to relate to people. They have the ability to communicate a vision, and it is something that people buy into. Can you think of any transformational leaders? Yes, Terry definitely, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Shannon definitely is a transformational leader and a hard-charging go-getter. And that's what, those are some of the characteristics that you see in a transformational leader. How about Hitler? And I went completely way off, didn't I?
No, he was.
He did. Yes. He was able to get people to rally behind him, even if it was bad, but he actually got them motivated to go do something. And that's what a transformational leader has the ability to do. I'm not saying we need to be Hitlers in here, but that is, he had the characteristics of a transformational leader. So as we start to look at how this transformational leadership started, I kind of tied it to the mainframe distributed area. So initially it started from transactional leadership, which was some work comes in, a leader processes it, makes sure it gets distributed, and then an output happens. And then the web era happens. And then transformational leadership now becomes more of something that you are inspiring others to do work, right? Many of us are challenged with budgets, restraints. We're challenged with maybe not having all the resources that we need. We're working long hours. But a transformational leader will kind of help a department, a group, or staff to continue to work through that anyway, regardless, and feel excited about being at work. There's something about coming to work when you have that passion in your stomach. You guys know what I'm talking about? You feel good about coming to work. You feel good about being motivated. Transformational leaders exude that. They model that behavior. Okay? If you're not feeling that, then it's probably you don't have a transformational leader. Or either you're just really not happy at the place that you're working at. That could be the other possibility. But transformational leaders, they stimulate and inspire others. So some of the characteristics of transformational leadership, we talked about this empowerment piece. They empower users. They believe that you have the right skill sets. They give you whatever high level category and they off you go with it. They also have a vision. How many of our organizations now have really good, solid visions? That's just a question, it's a rhetorical question, but think about it. Do we have a vision? Where are we going? So we struggle with that at the CPT. We're struggling with, we're actually getting ready to do a strategic plan. You know, what is it that we want to be? You know, we do a lot of stuff, but strategically and, you know, from a vision perspective, what do we want to do? And we teach this stuff and we're struggling with where do we want to go. So I know organizations have that as well. So the vision. Then transformation leads to some of these other things that have this charisma, this ability to communicate, this ability to fire people up, to motivate. And then they're participative. So they invite people into the decision process. So I kind of mentioned Hitler here. This is some of what I call the dark side of transformational leadership. These are some leaders I found very interesting that were considered transformational leaders, but they used their leadership to, you know, from maybe not such great gains. All right, so the intentions of transformational leadership is that leaders inspire with challenges. Most of us in here like to be challenged at some point in time, right? We don't want you to just tell me what to do, but you want to position the issue out there so I can find my way, right? I want to be challenged at work. No one wants to just come in and just do the same thing all the time. We like to be stimulated intellectually, right? Transformational leaders do that. Transformational leaders also provide this support and mentoring opportunity for staff. Do you think this, have I mentioned anything about technology? Yes. Yes.
We talked about inspiring that staff and get to the point that people want to come in and challenge, but realistically, you're still going to the don't. And how do you inspire those that, at the end of the day, they just want to challenge? No matter what you try, there's nothing you can do that inspires.
So I think the question was, you have some folks on your staff that are less enthusiastic about being there, and they're coming just for the paycheck, basically. So we kind of talked a little bit about this yesterday, around organizational development and around these 4 frames, and we talked about the structure, and then we talked about human resource, and human resource is a very important piece of that. I think if you don't have the team members that have bought into the culture that you have set, that may be the opportunity to help them rethink their career path, if you know what I'm trying to say.
I understand
I
inspiring.
hear what you say, but I mean, and I don't know, you know, in Virginia, but it is very difficult to eliminate or terminate employees. It is a very long process.
Yes.
But unless there are very specific reasons why the individual lives, it's a very challenging process.
In our organization, our city manager has implemented a customer service excellence program, and there are 10 behaviors that he's educated everybody in the entire organization about. And that includes attitude, one of the 10 keys, attitude contact all the time. There's some things about being proactive, taking ownership. So you have
Absolutely. Yeah.
Without support, and I think we didn't understand that as an organization in the beginning, but after we learned the supervisors, the city manager has given us everything we need.
Yes.
We now have these NPs, if you're not including them, it's pretty straightforward evaluation process to address.
Yes.
And I just address that, actually, what you're talking about, is for the performance appraisal. Because what I did is I tied it in, that performance appraisal, with due dates, because that's an expectation. And so I'm gonna look at it, not even ask them, I don't know how to motivate you. I've tried to motivate you, and I can't. And so I'm gonna tie it into expectations, due dates not being met, and I'm gonna make it a job performance thing. And then I'm gonna meet in 2 months, and if nothing's changed, there's a thing that has to happen, is that progression into HR right in month. But you're right, it's a pain in the butt for me to have to go through and follow up and be diligent and have to go through that type of thing. But he's bringing the people down, and it kills morale, and you've got other people that are trying to do a great job. So I'm holding myself accountable to that end too, to do what I need to do.
Having those organizational-wide standards makes it so much easier.
Yes.
You know, because we're not holding anybody to a different standard, it's our organization.
Absolutely. And I like the performance evaluation because really what you can measure, I mean, really what in some cases gets done. So if you have opportunities or ways to incorporate that into your evaluation with the employees, I think that goes a long way. And the other thing is, if you do not address it, just like you said, it takes the morale of the entire department down because just one bad apple stinks up the department. It won't cause the other ones to go bad, but there's a really bad odor in the department if you don't address it. You want to say something?
It's a little bit different approach. We kind of did something with you. Everybody do a specific self-training. It talks about motivation and teamwork and leadership and that stuff. They all have to take it. Then we develop what's called the IT team norms, and that's how we treat each other, how we interact, what's okay to do, email etiquette, all these things that we're holding accountable for. And now we have essentially the performance review that specifically states how well we follow those things. It's a big percentage of the performance review. And we have things on mid-year, how well you do, and at the end of the year. And that can give you not how well you do.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yes, sir.
I think we need to be clear, there's a distinction between the poor performer who's not as enthusiastic as one would be, and the detractor, right? Somebody who actually drove into the organization to be a performer. And our government opportunities, we don't always have the luxury of having 100% enthusiastic workforces.
Right.
And sometimes we can't always move individuals in the workforce to become enthusiastic supporters.
Right.
In some cases, the best we can look for, the best, and a suitable or viable alternative is just to move them to the point where they're supporting the effort, not necessarily enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Not a detractor, to your point, you don't want to cause.
Yeah. You bring up a point. I can't even get a full 100% volunteer at my home. with 3 kids and a wife, you know, we Tuesdays we run around the track, and all the ladies in the house are very excited about it. Me and my son are like, oh man, gotta go. So even within our own home, we find issues with trying to get everyone to be motivated about one particular thing. And I think that's a challenge too for leaders, is to really see how do we, what are the hot button issues, or what are the things that motivate our staffs. These training programs are great. I think those are great, kind of getting the group norms out there. All right, so some of the components of transformational leadership, I like to call these the 4 I's of transformational leadership. The first one is idealized influence, and this is basically where you role model for your staff. Then there's this whole concept around inspirational motivation. They challenge their workers to work hard. They inspire. They cause passion to happen. And then there's this whole concept around intellectual stimulation. And this happens when leaders kind of reframe problems or questions to hope that they can create some creativity from the staff. And then there's this whole concept around individualized consideration, and this is the concept of mentorship. Okay, how many of you are training your staff to maybe take your job one day? That is important. Okay, they really need to feel like that they are growing within the organization, so they can feel vested in the organization. So mentorship is really important. The other part about transformational leadership that's really important is being authentic, right? We're a culture now that kind of can see a phony a mile away, and so your leadership style and the way you lead your department has to be authentic. It has to be authentic. James McGregor Burns, he's the guy that really coined this whole transformational leadership approach, said people had to trust and respect the leader. People have to trust and respect the leader. People have to trust and respect. I cannot underline that point. You have to be able to trust in your leadership in order for them to want to follow you. And as a leader, we have to be, truly concerned about our followers. Okay? So this takes me to where we are going in the future, and I was with Dwayne at a conference, and we talked about this, we call it the CIO Plus. So this is what I'm saying is the next breed or next generation of CIOs. And this is where I think, so as we transform, the CIO is going to go into a whole nother level of opportunity as it comes to leadership. So as the CIO Plus, we're going to now start to look at community engagement. So how do we leverage our IT resources to be an enabler in the community? So how do we take broadband and we go into maybe some of the distressed parts of our counties or cities and improve the way of life? CIOs have that opportunity to do that. And I think that's the next move. So as budgets get tight and we start to really try to figure out how we're leveraging the dollars that we spend, there could be a return if CIOs are able to successfully negotiate this. I think the role is going to be more external facing than internal facing. And right now we're really focused on our departments and all these different strategies that go along within the organization. At some point in time, that's going to go external. The CIO is going to become a business innovator, gets back into breaking the rules. We're going to innovate new ways of doing things, and there's going to be an expectation that the CIO will be that. And last but not least, they will be a trusted leader. So my last slide is, what are your thoughts on what the new phase of the CIO is going to be? Do you agree with my previous slide? And if you don't, where do you think the CIO Plus is going to go? Absolutely.
So I think that as that grows, that people are going to realize we really do need to combine resources rather than duplicating the same equipment in 10 different agencies. Invest a much smaller amount of money and have the same outcome.
Absolutely.
So that's one area that we're trying to grow in as far as excellence.
Okay.
And also with the my software and major applications, we've been able in some cases to negotiate the municipalities having licenses as well without having to purchase the software themselves.
Yes.
I would also add efficiency drive.
This is the job, yeah.
You focus so much on the hardware, software, but I think IT is really growing in this idea of collaboration and processes. How can departments change the way that they do their work? Getting on the business side and really focusing on how we can become more efficient.
Yes.
Trust and leader, I think that really needs to be emphasized. And there are 4 areas of this that are critical. First, the obvious is honesty integrity. That goes without saying. But another thing that's related to that is communication. An awful lot of what's lost in trust is simply lost because communication isn't taking place at a level that it should be. Understanding what you're trying to accomplish, why you're trying to accomplish, and understanding your vision, part of your vision.
Yes.
So those 2 are important. But a couple of other things that also they overlook are competency. One is technical competency. Obviously, as a CIO, there's a technical competence that is expected of you, people follow you. But the fourth one that ties into business engineering is you also have to be competent in business. Yes, this is absolutely.
All over that, since you see lots of strong, if they're really technical, it's making that business relationship connectivity in the work. So, I mean, hopefully someone oversees the case, but a lot of times that's the reality. A big disconnect from IT department, especially in public safety, because it's a main organization. And they want something, they want you to do for them, and they don't really care what they're doing. It's what you need to be doing. So it's, developing those relationships is what's really key to being able to transform any part of the and then to do that process being things.
Absolutely. I think all the points that are very well pointed, and I think as technology changes, as the demands on IT department changes, the CIO is in a very interesting role right now. It's really interesting. It could go, I mean, it expands the gamut, so to speak. It gets to this run stage, gets to this transformation stage. But I think as leaders, we owe it to our organization, especially in public service, to really try to maximize every opportunity that we have in place. And a lot of that comes from being in a transformational sort of mode, where we're looking at empowerment and vision, this whole thing around trusted leadership. And not only, when we talk about the vision and we talk about communication, is really being able to communicate it to where folks can understand. Right? We cannot communicate a vision that's wrapped in IP tunneling, version 6, and all the acronyms that go along with that. I was in a BYOD session and a guy got up, and I've lost my technical chops quite a bit, and he went on about some security protocol, and I was glazed over. I mean, I guess the audience could see it in my face, and somebody stood up and said, "I don't think he understands what you just said." And it was a great point, because if we are talking that same sort of way to those who we're trying to communicate the vision to, they don't understand what you're trying to do. And so, a key part of being a transformational leadership is being able to really communicate the vision in a way that people can understand where it is that we're trying to go. Yes, sir. Did you have a...
Yeah, just kind of put a knob on something you mentioned yesterday, that you mentioned. I think sometimes our perspective is way too introspective. We talk about the empowerment of our organization. We talk about the vision of our organization. We talk about we want them to trust us.
Yes.
Okay, well, there's a problem in all 3 of those statements.
Us.
Right? The problem is me.
Yes.
I should be a trusting leader. I should be an empowering leader. I should
Absolutely.
be able to give up control with my partners. I should have a shared vision. And so I think sometimes the biggest barrier to us being a transformational leader is us.
I agree. Yes. Well said. I think we can kind of close the session on that right there. Any other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Well, I did have one thing, it's kind of a
Yes.
shifting gears back towards the beginning.
Yeah.
I know this this entire session is more geared towards the person of the CIO, but as someone who is not a CIO, I feel that something that I'm a part of is stuck and run, because of the one that I'm following is not necessarily the CIO, but, you know, the
Yes.
people that I report to are stuck and run.
Yes.
So as someone who's not the person who's setting the vision, how can I help, or any thoughts that you might have on helping, you know, get our organization from not the top, you know, as a follower? Like, how can I kind of get us out of run?
Help catapult that
Yeah.
situation.
Anything that, you know, just any thoughts or?
You know, I haven't thought about it from that perspective, but that's a unique area because sometimes as the employee, like, so I'm in a similar situation. I'm not the leader of my organization either. You know, Shannon is the leader, and Shannon is the leader, and I respect that. So how do I push or gently nudge?
Or anything.
And I think that comes from the leader empowering you to be able to come up with ideas that will help grow the organization. So, like I said, I'm not the leader, but Shannon gives us the opportunity to come up with ideas and to generate those kinds of, I guess, movement going upward. And so I think you need to have that within your organization to feel, I guess you need to have the ability to feel trusted to do that without repercussions. Because sometimes you can push and then it's not well received, right? And then they want to, you know, chop your hands off. So Orlando and then Paul.
Yes, sir. Maurice, one thing I've done, and it seems to work, for my tech director, she's run, but she's good at run.
Right.
She's good at run, and she never has the time, because we don't have the staff and all of that, to go into this transformational arm. Because right now she thinks it's a bit irrelevant, being that we've got all this stuff we need to get done.
Right.
So when it comes down to planning a summer conference for K-12 in the district, she wants to do it, know it needs to get done, but it's like, I don't have time, yada, yada. So every opportunity, by being in the program and being in this kind of environment, every opportunity that she casts vision and things that she would like to do, I always grab it, and I take it, you know, and I put a little transformation on it,
Yes.
send it back to her, and let her pick and choose what she likes. But yet still, I have a sense that I have a feeling that we are moving.
Yes.
You know, and maybe one day we'll wake up and we're there, we're already there, but it's just catering to leadership in a way that they don't feel offended, but
Right.
yet we're moving along, and it's like eating crumbs, and you wake up and you're already there, but you just ate crumbs along the way.
Yes.
You know, so that's an approach that's less offensive, and it gives me, it relieves the frustration of me being stuck on wood.
Yes.
Because when a bite is bitten, it's like we're moving forward.
Paul.
Okay, Maurice, one thing that's scary for something like this, and have an honest discussion, really does work well, because the leader is the suggestions, don't really know where it came from, so just feel like you're looking at it, but over some period of time, it really starts thinking, wow, do people want to do this, it's a good idea, or do we move this direction?
So I don't have an answer, but I've got a question. You said that your manager is stuck in one. Is it because your manager wants to be stuck in one? Or is it because of circumstances, he really does want to get, he or she wants to get somebody to run a transformer? But just because of the situation is having a hard time getting it, this is, how you deal with it is different depending upon where different counties are.
Well, and I think that's part of the problem too, because I think some of it's environment, some of it's, you know, available resources, time, you know, staff. But something, not having been in city government for, you know, tens of years
Yeah.
and stuff, I noticed that, like, people who desire to be transformational leaders, when they come in, after they've been there for 20 years, they kind of start to get into the, nothing's going to change, might as well just keep things running, at least that way, you know, I won't get yelled at, or whoever's on top won't get mad. And I feel like there's a lot of things that are contributing to it. And especially working in public safety, you know, you want to leverage technology, you want to be at the cutting edge, you want to be the transformation, but at the same time, if you can't do that because you have to have CJIS compliance, that stops it all, stops everything, then, like, you're just worried about run, you're worried about getting the officers and the fire trucks where they need to go.
It's pretty rare you run into a CIO or director manager that doesn't want to be successful.
Yeah.
In a positive direction.
Right.
Even for somebody who's got stuck in a rut, so to speak, after having been in an organization for 5 years. But everybody, anyone wants to be successful. And most managers and CIOs are willing to take help. You just have to handle it delicately and be careful with it. And I think, as I was growing up in IT, the most important thing that I kept in mind when I was dealing with these situations is, everybody can be successful if everybody gets the credit.
Yeah.
That's one thing to take into consideration. Would your manager take the credit?
And that goes back to some of those tenets of transformational leader, this whole participative management structure, this whole thought of empowering, not just for myself, but really me empowering, giving up control. There's a song out there called "You Must Lose to Win." I don't know if anybody heard that or not, but it's really interesting that you have to give up some things in order to actually win the game. You can't carry all that stuff around with you. So, any other questions? Great discussion. Everybody ready to go be a CIO transformational leader now? Yeah. Gonna go back to your organizations with that passion in your belly. Thank you, guys. Yes, got a question. Yes, it will be. I've actually given it to my main man, Mark, over there. And Brad's going to put it on the website. All right. Thank you, guys.